Give me a few minutes when we get going. I literally threw it together when I got home. My brain's a little tired. All right. All right. Get this. Let me turn my background off. Christmas one today at work, and it worked on my wall just fine.
Hi, Patrick.
Hey, I feel so rusty. It's like I feel like I've been off forever.
Yeah, I haven't attended your meetings in a long time either. I've been a little demotivated these days.
It's okay. It is okay. I've been studying so much, and then the COVID thing hit, and I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise to force myself into a break.
Yeah, I'm taking it that way too.
All right. Are you close to taking the test yet, or are you still kind of a ways away?
I've given a test, and 398 is the closest I've come to passing. So,
Oh man.
yep, that's why I'm demotivated these days. I just don't want to study anymore. I'm done.
I only have 600 hours so far accumulated, so
Oh my God. When do you think you're going to be done?
I should be done by the summer. It just depends on COVID because my supervisor found me a thing with different things I could do if COVID hits again and we get a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, just trying to. I only got 20 hours this last month because of COVID. I was out of school for 2 weeks, and then the 1 week I came back, I couldn't really do a whole lot. So I don't know. We'll get it.
Can
Hopefully, get
you
it going.
can you accumulate hours online?
I do them all. I count some things as trainings. I don't know if I'm supposed to or how that goes, but and then a lot of indirect stuff. But a lot of my hours are for my working with kids, observations, data collection, that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Then I realized how much I need to work on my data collection. The more I've been doing this year, so it's been kind of interesting. I'm ready to go into elementary. Um,
Okay.
well, I'm gonna start working with a charter school. It's K through 3 for trauma based. So I'm gonna have a lot of problematic behaviors along the way too. But I'm just ready for the structure. I know who my kids are. I'm in one building. I'm in one area, and I kind of call the shots how I want my procedures to go. So that makes it exciting. Then I'm gonna start kind of a autism program for our school districts in our area alongside that. So a lot of stuff on my plate. I hope I can deliver. I
You'll be fine. You're gonna be amazing.
didn't want to
What
try to
state? What
pronounce your
state do you
name.
live? My name?
Yeah, I'm scared to even try to pronounce it.
That's okay. It's Alana.
Glad to have you here.
Oh yes. What state are you? What state do you live in?
I'm in Arkansas.
Oh, Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah, that 7 o'clock deal, I'm sure kind of gets you guys if you're on the eastern side. I'm tempted to move it back to 6 because it's just been so nice just to get it over with. But tonight, I just came straight home and started my outline. Then I got done. I was like, I'm not going to do a PowerPoint. We're good. And then ever since the Ryan O'Donnell deal, and I realized I had like 25,000 slides, and then I was like, oh, we're gonna just go to 10, and we're gonna be okay. But I did cover a lot of the major points, but I'm not gonna go over every little thing. I've been doing a lot better of not hitting every major point on my outline and just hitting some major things. It's funny how I've been missing the Cooper and then doing the behavior lasting change, and then now it kind of like they're side by side, the material. It's like we're in chapter 9 here and chapter 5 over there, but the material literally is side by side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's turned into like a repeat on Tuesdays, which has probably scared off a lot of people. But the material is so easy to understand in the Meyer book.
It is.
It's not like pulling teeth in Cooper where it's so technical and you feel you're obligated as an aspiring BCBA to that's the book to read, that's the book to get, and that's how we're going to study. And
Meyer is more readable. You would want to read Meyer more number of times than you would want to read Cooper. But I know
definitely,
Cooper gets a lot of attention and Meyer doesn't get as much as attention, and I know that.
yeah, I know there's a couple other ones out there, but after I pass the test, I probably won't have another book study for quite a while. Because I mean, this is my second go around on the Cooper, and things are starting to finally click and make a little bit more sense. But I think it's really because the Meyer, because the Meyer is so much more easy to read, and I use this book with my coursework, so it's kind of a second go around for that too. And things are starting to kind of click a little bit better, which really helps out because now we're hitting experimental design. And when I covered this the first go around, it was really interesting because like me, Lauren Fry, and Alicia, and we just start talking around, hitting some points, and we all three were kind of like scatterbrained because experimental design can be complicated. It can be really confusing if you look at it like all those different letters and all those different things. I think Ryan kind of helped make it more sense for me because you can have a lot of different designs. You can make your own design. You can have so many different variations. It's just understanding what you can do and what works for different ways. It looks like reversal, withdrawal, and multiple baseline are popular designs for us. And I was real excited about last week, and I probably had like no enthusiasm, but I threw in the PowerPoint notes from my coursework on visual inspection because that helped me literally those slides that I pretty much recreated for the group got me through every research paper, everything that I had to go through and look at those different research and with the slides and the visuals and the reading and all that because it gets really complicated because yeah you want to look at trend and variability and level, but it's really important to get all of those different aspects because the more different things you add to your visual inspection, the more you're adding support to it, some validity to it. So I thought that was really worth sharing, and I wish it didn't happen right around the whole COVID thing, but
Yeah.
it's what but chapter 9 kind of starts hitting us off with a little bit of those different designs, those different variations, but it doesn't get too crazy because Cooper kind of will talk about all 5 of them or all whatever of them off the bat, but Meyer's only going to go into reversal, withdrawal, and then he's going to jump into a little bit of multiple baseline. Reversal and withdrawal are really kind of the same thing if you think about it. We're going to start with our baseline. Then we're going to start our treatment, and then we're going to, if it's working, we're going to pull out. We're going to withdraw. We're going to reverse back to baseline, which is a big part of its, I guess, its sustainability, how it works. But the pros, or I guess the cons on that would be if you're doing self-injurious behavior or your intervention is really working, or you don't want to pull the plug and then go back to baseline because everything's already working, you have your ethical concerns along the way too. But we all should know what our single subject experimental designs are at this point. That's I think that's kind of, it's the light bulb starting to kind of hit on me on that one right now too. You know, a lot of these research that outside of our field, they focus on group, on those averages, on those group norms, and then that's what we base our decisions off of. But we're not that way. We have several individuals, and then we do the individual subject, and we base our results off those individuals, not averages and all that. We want to demonstrate a functional relation across the intervention. There should be a little bit of pros and cons in there. Extraneous and confounding variables, I think the light bulb starting to hit on that too. They're not really totally different. They're really the same. And when you do any kind of experiment or any kind of procedure with experimental design, because it's not just in a clinic. It could be at home base. It could be in school. It could be in OBM in all different places. Those unrelated variables, those confounding factors, they can create problems for your experiment. They can create problems for what's going on. So if you can get rid of or try to reduce those variables, it also adds to the validity of your experiment. So it's just uncontrolled variables that they can have an influence on your experiment. I'll go down here to advantages of single subject designs. Meyer was pretty cool about that. I really like the, I'm going to mispronounce it, the IPSATIV or whatever, the IPSATIV data. It really talked about really the advantages of single versus group. We're basing our data on the individual, not the group. I think that's kind of the problem, and I'm seeing a lot in the preschool area, which is kind of frustrating me. We want it now. We want fixing now. We want these problem behaviors to go away now. So we pull from these evidence-based procedures that we know are winners because overall it's worked on so many. Well, my supervisor's been really big on, you take your data and you make your decision on the individual. This may work for them, but let's find out what works for this person. Which last week when we started kind of dipping a little bit of experimental design, it talked about, I look at it as proving your data wrong. And when you collect all that data up front and you interview everybody and they say, well, happened, and you pull all your information, in my case, my baseline data my teachers provide for me. If it happens on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to go on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays and see if it really does happen. If it happens mostly during circle time, outside play, and that's where I'm going to go, and then other times too. I want to see everything, the clear picture of what's going on for that individual. Meyer also talked about we're basing everything off individual performance, which is a big part of, that helps us with that evidence-based practice part. And it also sustains and gives us accountability. And it gets really hard, we have our observer drift and all that stuff where in our field, we want to use objective data to make decisions versus, it's really easy to get that subjectiveness in there, which is why I'm really starting to kind of not like those surveys and rating scales and all these things, because they're just, and it's not so much the more I study, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to make a treatment package based on the thoughts and the feelings of the teacher, the parent, and whoever else is involved. That can go in a lot of different directions versus objective data that tells me this is what's going on and this is what I need to figure out the best course of action. Which has really helped me out with my data collection, because my supervisor has kind of got on me about that, which is fine, because she's right. That data is used for decision-making purposes. So if you're not collecting it correctly, it's not solid to begin with. Demonstrating functional relations. I think my light bulb kind of came on tonight as I'm rushing to put all this together. And everything that we do, whether it's experimental design or all those different designs, the goal is functional relation. If you have a functional relation, you're going to prove that it's working or it's not working. I put a question on there because I never even thought about that until I did it, about the three different about replication. When you demonstrate replication, you want really to have at least 3: prediction, obtained data, and verification. I saw some people put 2s, and 2 does sound like a good answer, because when you look at your baseline trend, you do need 2 points for your baseline, but 3 really establishes that trend. In this case, with the prediction, the obtained data, and the verification, your baseline is where you make your prediction. So if your baseline data is trending where you want it to trend, then of course your intervention is going to go as planned. So if your baseline's trending in a desirable level, according to Meyer, you may want to try a different design, because it shouldn't be that easy peasy. It really shouldn't. And then when you have there's a picture over here, not that one. Yeah, this one. So when you have your baseline, it's trending up here. So then we drop down to our first treatment, our first intervention in B. Well, it goes down. So we have our prediction. Now we're getting data, and then we go back to our baseline, and now we could verify. We have a POV that intervention right there worked. And then we drop down to the next intervention phase, and we're going to do it all over again. And then there's a picture over here. Sorry if I'm going all over the place, but I was really excited about where is it at? I know I had 2 of them. Man, I know I had 2. Anyways, the picture is from the book. And it showed the first POV, and then it showed the data kind of went down. So it didn't support the data, it didn't support everything. And then we went to the second, then we went back to baseline intervention, and it showed everything in the right track. So we had a POV, we didn't have one, then we had one. But the goal is to have 3. Meyer was pretty big on your prediction being your baseline phase. And then when you introduce your intervention phase, that's when you start to obtain that data. And then when the independent variable, when we verify, the prediction and the obtaining data doesn't overlap. The overlap increases or decreases compared to baseline. So if your baseline's up here, and then we go into our next phase, and if we're trying to decrease the behavior, we have that drop. So obviously compared to baseline, we have a significant drop, or vice versa. We're looking for that significant difference. If everything's trending the same, it's like this or like that, obviously we're not having any verification. Nothing's showing that it's obviously working one way or the other. I don't know, maybe the light bulb's kind of gone. I hope that's good for me down the road, but it just, this stuff is so confusing, but it's starting to kind of make a little bit of sense. I pulled this from Rogue. If you haven't guys done already, the Rogue graphic organizers, they have a whole bunch of them, the free ones. I got those. I do the Rogue audio in the car wherever I go somewhere. Right now I'm kind of tired of listening to her voice, so I took a little break for a while. I'm sure people.
Catherine,
What's that?
who's speaking in the Rogue audio?
The one I have is Sarah Elizabeth, and I heard they're making another one, and I heard that voice is even more annoying. But what's funny is I still hear those things when I'm studying, where I'm looking at things. You know, like, oh, I could hear her voice when it's going on. But withdrawal reversal, I'm gonna have to load this up a little bit here. We have our baseline, we have our treatment. The idea, like I said earlier from Mayer, is our baseline and our treatment are opposite ends of the spectrum. We don't want to have that trend in either way. We want to show that when we add the intervention, it's either increasing or decreasing the behavior the way it should be. And then when we pull the plug in the next baseline, there's that significant change. And that's where it gets in that, like I said earlier, the ethical portion of it. We have certain behaviors that we want to pull the plug on, or also you can't teach someone to ride their bike and then say, oh, now you don't know how to ride your bike anymore. So there's a lot of concerns on that part as well. Sequence effects based on the treatment's also presented. Irreversibility, not suitable for skills which cannot be unlearned. Like I said, you teach someone how to ride a bike, it's kind of hard to unteach that. You teach those self-help skills, you can't really unteach that. Then we have our experimental control through our baseline logic, our prediction, our verification, and our replication. Meyer really broke it down. I tried to include those in here as well. But he also put some guidelines in there, and I mapped those out. The first thing he said about creating that withdrawal design, first we want to generate a baseline consisting of repeated patterns of behavior. We're trying to make a prediction. Obviously, if you have variability, it's all over the place, we don't need to start intervention. You always want to have stability with your line, with your trend, or with your data points before you even start intervention. And then next, you want to add the intervention over several repeated sessions. And then we review the pattern during the new intervention phase to determine whether the obtained performance level has moved higher, lower, or stayed the same than the prediction line. So if the prediction line and the obtained data are different, then we have verification. Like I said, if our prediction's up here, our baseline data is up here, and then we add our intervention, there's a significant decrease, which is what we're looking for, then we have verification. Because here's our prediction, we got our data, and then because of the difference, we have our verification. We also want to consider trend and variability. Like I said, if your data points are all over the place, then obviously we have some problems going on there. And then finally, we choose one of several possible design arrangements to enable the analyst to rule out the possibility of unrelated variables actually may have been responsible for behavior change. Like Meyer said also, we're not just, there isn't a coincidence. We want to make sure through our data, through our procedure, that no confounding factors, confounding variables, or anything just came in and made it work. We want to show that what we did, what we added, showed a functional relation, and that's what worked, and then we can replicate that effect. There's some designs that said systematic changes in dependent variable that are a function of the presentation of independent variables serve to increase our confidence in the functionality of the relation. Like I said earlier, the bigger difference you have, the stronger the functional relation. But you want to have 3 POVs. Then it talks about selecting and using the withdrawal design and the different phases. I'm not going to get too much in depth on that, but it's basically we repeatedly observe, measure, record, and graph the behavior of interest, our dependent variable, under typical conditions, which means that adaptation has taken place from previous baseline data to establish a baseline. In other words, we're going to establish our baseline, and then we're going to add our intervention, like I said before, and then we're going to withdraw it. We're going to reverse back to baseline. And that's when we start getting into our POV, because then we add the next phase. We do it all over again, and then we do it again, and then we do it again. Every time we do it again and we have replication, then we have a POV. We have our prediction, obtained data, and verification. Which I really thought that I had that picture in there. I guess I didn't. The baseline phase serves a number of distinct purposes. It displays actual current performance patterns or features. It serves as a basis for predicting future levels. It enables us to assess the durability of change in response patterns. And it provides us with evidence for deciding whether to reinstate and perhaps permanently establish or eventually phase out the intervention. When you have multiple baseline, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, you want stability in the baseline before you add your intervention. And then we add our intervention, the first one, we have stability, and then we jump to intervention over here. And then we have stability, then we jump to our third, and so on and so on. It's really important. That's why I know a lot of people are like, even for me, I have a hard time determining, okay, why is this starting here and why is it staggered? Well, it starts with the first one. We have our stability, then we add our intervention. We have stability, and then we're gonna add our next intervention. We have our stability, then we're gonna add our next intervention. But our baseline, is really important. It really establishes a lot of what's going to happen down the road. It says that withdrawal design demonstrates experimental control by showing that once the interventions is solidly in place, behavior measures change from those recorded during baseline. Like I said earlier, we have a significant change, then we have our functional relation. Like right here. Our first baseline, the data is trending upwards, it's increasing. And then at our intervention, the behavior has a significant decrease. And then we pull it away, behaviors return back to the original state, and then we add it again, and the behavior decreases again. And then it talked about a true reversal design. That really didn't make a whole lot of sense for me, but for the most part, it talked about the different types of reversal design, the DRA, the DRO, the NCR, and all those. It did talk about how the reversal design, by definition, requires an intervention phase crafted for the purpose of reversing the target behavior, turning it around the direction opposite that intended to prevail during treatment. Pretty much the same thing, just different wording. Our baseline's here, we add our intervention, it decreased. Or if it's down here and we add it and the behavior increased, and we pull the plug, and we're going right back to baseline. It's basically, we're just pulling the plug. It's kind of like Rogue says, you have a circuit protector, and then you're just in withdrawal, you're pulling all the plugs. versus, in reversal, you could pull that one major plug as well. And like I said this earlier about the additional return to baseline design variations, a lot of the ethical guidelines are kind of in here. They talk about a little bit later on. You just want to be careful what kind of interventions you want to pull the plug on. There's also behaviors you can't unteach, so you have to keep that in mind. And I thought that was kind of neat too, and it kind of reminded me of what Ryan talked about. You could do just about anything, A, B, C. You can just add your different letters. Just remember, when you start, A is your baseline, and then your B, C, D, and so forth. Those are just different interventions that you're adding. But once you establish your 3 POVs, then you typically want to go into your maintenance phase and see if those skills will continue down the road as well. One main advantage of the withdrawal or reversal is to provide accountability by simply convincing that functional relation. It's one of the few designs capable of demonstrating the effects of one or sometimes more interventions on the behavior of a single individual. It also educates contingency managers and consumers by demonstrating the efficacy of the new procedures and the value of continuing them rather than returning to former, less constructive approaches to handling the behavior that we're used to during baseline. That's basically, in a nutshell, one of your basic advantages of reversal withdrawal is that significant change. By pulling the plug, you should have a significant change in the intervention and baseline. One of the disadvantages they're talking about here is you have to consider the issues and problems with reinstating baseline conditions. You have your ethical points. Do you really want to pull the plug on certain self-injurious behaviors? And then also, when you're looking at life skills and self-help skills, you can't really unteach those things. So that's not really suitable for a reversal or withdrawal. AB designs require reasonable baseline stability. Well, I think that's really kind of a disadvantage for all of them then, because all the different experimental designs need baseline stability. You can't have a lot of variability anyways. It's just too much craziness in the baseline. When baselines are highly variable or trained toward an anticipated change, they threaten to obscure the influence of the intervention. So that really would be a problem with a lot of other designs as well. The design interrupts progress. Yeah, because things are going great, and then we pull the plug to see if it still works. So of course you're going to interrupt progress. Some may even question multiple probe. I don't know. They're kind of going with that, but they mentioned the multiple probe part, and they said withdrawing the intervention briefly on ethical grounds. Basically, in a nutshell, from my coursework and from which was drawn from the Meyer, I'm sure Cooper will say it as well. Like I said, those ethical parts of you don't really want to pull the plug on interventions that are working on self-injurious behaviors, serious problematic behaviors, and like I said, life skills. You just can't pull the plug and unlearn certain things. Then I pulled the multiple baseline thing from Rogue. Its design features, and obviously it's multiple baseline. It could be across settings, it could be across people, it could be across behaviors. Like I said earlier, when we have a stable trend in the baseline, then we introduce our intervention. And then once we have, see if I get that little marker thing here. Be all cool. Okay. See, once we have our stable trend, I might be a little bit skinnier than that. I mean, it's showing a stable trend. We have one guy here who's kind of off in his own little world, but overall it's stable. And then we add our intervention. And we're showing some stability, so guess what? We're gonna add it over here. And even we still have some stability here, it's just trending in a downward. And then once we have it here, then we're gonna add it again over here. That's why they're long, the baselines I think are longer, because you're waiting on stability from your previous interventions. It's kind of my take after, you know, sitting on Nick and going through this several different times. And then I look at that and I'm like, that makes sense. You know, we have our stability, then we add it again. We have our stability, then we try it again. Because obviously if we're going to do multiple baseline, we're not going to start everybody off on the same track. And of course you have your delayed multiple baseline, which is feasible for people who come in the experiment or later on. And we just, you know, kick them in, start them right there, and we're good to go. Our spell control will be replication of results across subject settings or behaviors. 3 or more is the key for multiple baseline. You don't want to have 1, don't want to have 2, you want to have 3. So when we have a steady trend, and basically our results are replicated among all the individuals, among all the behaviors, among all the different settings, those 3 different types, then we have our control. Versus reversal withdrawal, we're looking for that major difference, the difference from our intervention and baseline. All right, and then multiple baseline, the definition from Mayer was we're going to implement the intervention sequentially across several baselines, each of differing lengths, to control for such time-dependent extraneous variables such as history, maturation, reaction to being measured for longer or shorter periods, seasonal influences. They also refer to that as earthquake effect, which makes sense. You have all these confounding factors and they come in there and they can kind of shake things up for you. The level, trend, and or variability change substantially when and only when the independent variable is applied, and that said change doesn't occur at the same time across baselines. Then we concluded the IV and the DV are function related. And it gets into more, like I said, we want to have our 3 or more baselines. And then your variations are your across individuals, across behaviors, and your across settings. Basically, you're plugging in the word subjects, then you're basically putting the word behavior in, and then settings, which kind of goes in last week too on the from Cooper. What I tried to share was a different data paths have meaning. So you could have one, you know, the different data paths, multiple data paths will have your different subjects, then your different behaviors, and so forth. There's a little section on, I didn't get too in depth on that, but talk about planning, implementing multiple baseline designs. First step, choose your number of baselines, select the number of interventions, use a multiple baseline design as a method for probing and analyzing progress. You know, we're probing really to kind of see who the learner is. Then we have our disadvantages and advantages. Then I'll wrap it up right here. Our advantages based on Meyer for multiple baseline designs does not require a return to a non-treatment condition. We have our baseline, we add our intervention, and we keep going. So if it's working, it's sustaining, behaviors are improving, we're going to keep going. Versus alternating, we have our baseline, we want to decrease behavior, and then we go back. Back to multiple baseline design, extremely useful in educational, medical, industrial, and other organizational settings. Because the intervention lags across time, these designs are especially handy across time. That's why I kind of like the delayed baseline, because like I said earlier, you can add the clients as they come in too. Makes it nice. And then your disadvantages are special replication across individuals within the same setting. Those receiving treatment might influence the relevant behavior of the other intended participants whose behavior is to be delayed. You're going to have some effects there. You know, if our individuals are in the same setting and they're kind of watching each other, there may be some effects there as well. Some argue that multiple baseline is a weaker form of replication. Because I would assume because it's not clear cut as the withdrawal reversal. I mean, you have a clear as day functional relation. One must see in advance the dependent variables are not interdependent or highly interrelated, as happens when the behaviors are members of the same response class. And the last disadvantage is the requirement that each intervention must be put off in time, some for extended durations. That would probably be, you know, your staggering part. You know, as it goes on, your top guy's going on forever. Your second guy has a longer baseline and a longer baseline, and those durations could be longer and shorter. But that's really all I have. I appreciate you sticking it out with me. I didn't get too long. Didn't go too bad tonight. Last week I was super short. I just did it before I went. I got done everything.
Thought that there's actually a storm passing, and I thought my power is going to go out. So I just wanted to do whatever I would do online for a little bit. So I was like, you know what? I'm glad I just came. And thankfully, the storm just passed because it was lightning and it was like thunderstorms since like 5 o'clock. So it was really bad.
Oh man.
Yeah,
we had a really bad storm Tuesday last week. You know, like knocked like stuff off people's roofs and trees and all kinds of stuff. I mean, you thought a tornado came around here, and I got pine straw really bad. So after this guy cleaned my yard up, now my yard's back to what it was before. Like, oh man, cannot win per Trump.